Welcome guys to another episode of Code with Prime, and in this particular tutorial we are going to be talking about Python variables and data types. Okay, so first of all, let us understand what a variable is. So when you say a variable simply means a location in memory where you can actually store a particular form of data. Okay, so as an example, imagine you enter a library. Now, in a library, you see that you have shelves inside the library. Okay, now all the books in that library are stored inside what? Shelves. Okay, so basically a computer memory is also arranged like that. So if we store a particular data, that data we are storing is what we call a variable. Okay, good. So and then in Python, how do we declare variables? Okay, so to do that, now of course, first of all, we need to open our Python idle. So remember to open your Python idle. Give me a minute, let me just set this up. Remember to open your Python idle. So I go to my search bar, and I type idle, and you see it opens up. Okay, so our Python idle is ready for us to write our code. Now, but I want us to learn something new today. Okay, so this is our Python shell where everything we write is executed. For example, if I say print hello, you see that this is where it will be executed. Okay, syntax error. Okay, yeah, I made an error there. So I say print hello. Now you see that if I print hello, it shows up on the terminal also. So what I want is, I want a situation where I will have a different place to write my code, and I will have a different place to actually execute my code. So what do? So all I have to just do is I go to file, I create new file, and then before I start writing anything on this code, first thing I have to do is I have to save this file. Okay, so I can say Control S, and then I will save it as maybe variable. Let's just call it var. Okay, save, and then you see that anytime I write a code on this side, it will be executed here. So let's try it and see if it is working. Okay, so I can say print hello world, and it closes. So I click enter. So if I click enter, nothing happens. So for me to be able to get my results on this side, all I have to do is, of course, I have to save. Control S, I save it, and then I click this run button here and say run module. Okay, so if I run it, you see on this side we have hello world. Okay, so let me delete that. And then let's go back to what we're talking about. Remember, we're talking about variables. So let me teach you how to declare variables in Python. Now, the same way you declare variables in mathematics, that is the same way you declare variables in Python. So for instance, I can say something like x equals 50. X is equal to 50. I click enter. So if I say x is equal to 50, I'm telling Python that, okay, carry this number 50 and store it to the variable x. That is what I'm telling you to do. I can create another variable, y is equal to 30. Okay, y is equal to 30. So you see, I'm also telling Python, create this variable for me and store the information 30 on it. Okay, so how do I know that my variables are actually being stored in that location? Of course, I can make use of the print function. Okay, so I can say print, and I can tell it print x. Let us see what happens. So remember, if you click enter, nothing works. What do? I press Control S, save it, and then I click run to run module. Okay, so you see it prints 50 on this side, meaning that it has successfully stored 50 in our variable. Now, after storing that, can we actually use these variables that were stored? Yes, we can actually use it. And how can we use it? For example, I can perform mathematical operations on my variable that is stored. For example, I can ask it to print x plus y. Now, what am I doing? I am saying, okay, Python, print x plus y, meaning add x and y. Okay, add x and y. Now, what happens? You see that if I click enter, nothing happens. I press Ctrl S and then I click run to run the module. And when I run it, you see it shows me 80, meaning 50 plus 30, and I have 80 on this side. Okay, so that is what we have as x and y. Can we create more variables? Yes, of course we can create more variables. We can create more variables. I can say, okay, z is equal to 6.9. Okay, I can say w is equal to, let me just put my name there. I can say prime. Okay, now, as you can see, if we look at this w here, you see that this w, which is prime, which is my name, you see that I am not just writing w equal to prime. I am not just writing this, okay? I am not just writing this. Why? Because prime, I don't want it to store this way. So I actually want it to store this. So I can write it this way. Now, if you write it this way, Python is going to be like, what the heck? What is this? And it is going to give me an error. It is going to give me what? An error. Yes, it is going to give me an error. So I don't do this. So in order for you to create something like names or anything, just make sure you put it in quotes. Now, mind you, here I used double quotes, but of course you can also use single quotes, meaning I can say something like, okay, let's say R is equal to, what do we call it now? Okay, let's say Ima. Okay, so Python will understand this. So I can say, okay, print R. If I say print R, tell me, what is it going to print? Is it going to print R, or will it print what is stored inside R? Okay, let's see. So I save and then I click run. Okay, you see it prints Ima. Why is it printing Ima instead of R? It is printing Ima because Ima is stored in the variable R. Okay, Ima is stored in the variable R. And then what if I say print W? What is it going to print? It is going to print what? Let's say save and run. Let's see. It will print prime. You see? It prints prime. Okay, so that is that about variables. And then what is the next thing? Remember in this video we said we're going to talk about variables and data types. Now, in fact, we don't need to say much about data types because we have been doing that already. Now, if you look at coming back to this x, remember I said x is equal to 50. I said x is equal to 50. Now, what does this 50, or what kind of data is this 50? Now, before we discuss what kind of data 50 is, let us know what a data type is. Okay, so a data type simply means the nature of the information you're storing. The nature of the information you're storing. Now, back to our example of the library. You see that in a library, we said that books are stored in shelves. Okay, now the kind of books you store in shelves is analogous to the data types in Python. Now, what do I mean by that? Now, you see that when you enter a library, you have books in physics arranged in one side, you have books in chemistry arranged in one side, books in English and so on, all arranged in different shelves. You don't see them all together in the same shelf. Okay, so in this case now we have x equal to 50. Now x is a type of data which we call integers. We call it integers. So x is equal to 50. So 50 is an integer. And of course, for those mathematicians out there, you will know that an integer means a whole number. Okay, integer means what? A whole number. And then when you talk about y also, y is also a kind of what? Integer. Okay, is an integer. Now, but of course, that we called this an integer does not mean we have to pronounce it this way if we're doing in Python. So in Python, how do we deal with this? We normally say int. So when you see int, it means int in Python. Okay, integer. Now, if you look at the variable z is a decimal number. And again, for those of you that do math, you will know what a decimal number is, okay? But in Python, we don't call this decimal number, we call it a float, or sometimes you call it a floating point, okay? So it is called a float, it is called a float, okay? And then if you look at W and R are storing some name variables, okay? That is letters. They are storing letters. They are storing letters. They are storing letters. And because they are storing letters, the kind of data that they are storing is what we call strings. We call them strings in Python. We call them strings in Python, okay? So the basic data types that we have talked about in this tutorial is what? We've talked about integers, we've talked about floats, and we've talked about strings. And of course, there are other kinds of data types in Python, which we are going to be discussing in next videos, okay? So make sure you stay tuned to this tutorial, and I will see you in the next class. Thank you very much.